What is Yizkor all about? This is a question. What is Yizkor all about? So I'm going to go off on a rant. Okay? When I was a child, I read Marcus Lehman's books, the 5 novelettes, whatever was available. And one of the 5 novelettes, I think it's called Out of the Depth. I may be wrong, but it's one of the 5 novelettes. And there's a story where somebody told a German king that on the holiest day of the year, the Jewish people open up the holiday by permitting themselves to lie and cheat non-Jews. In other words, Leil Yom Kippur, we say Kol Nidrei, and the way it was spun is that Kol Nidrei is a heter. The Jewish people give each other a heter, the holiest day of the year, to lie and cheat. That's how it was presented to this king. So the king called it off and said to the rabbi, there's an accusation. He says, how does Yom Kippur begin? He tells him, Kol Nidrei. What does Kol Nidrei mean? You're releasing all vows. So the king says to him, my advisors are right. They're telling me that the Jewish people open up the holiest day of the year with a allowance, Rachmana litzlan, to be disingenuous, to lie, to cheat. Abi halacha, stealing from a goy is exactly the same thing as stealing from a Jew. Exactly the same. There's no difference whatsoever in halacha. And Genevas das is also you're not allowed to deceive a guy. In Jewish law, there's no difference between stealing from a Jew and stealing from a non-Jew. But this is how it was presented. And the king said to the Rav, you're admitting that this is how you open up your service at the holiest day. So the king said, you know what, Your Majesty, go out in the street, find the simplest Jew who knows nothing, and call him into the palace and ask him, as they say in the halacha, Masiach lefitumei, what's Kol Nidrei? Ask him what it means. So the king goes out. They send people out. They find some Jew. The Jew was a simple man. I forgot already the details of his life, but he certainly was not the kind of man who was accustomed to be schlepped into palaces and stand in front of kings and to know dignity and etiquette and formality. He was overwhelmed by the whole experience. He thought, who knows what was going to happen to him. They schlep him into the king, and he's shaking hand and foot out of nerves. And the king says, what is the holiest day of the year? He says, Yom Kippur. What is the first service Kippur? Kol Nidrei. What does Kol Nidrei mean? And the man begins to stammer and to struggle for words. He says, Kol Nidrei, Kol Nidrei. Kol Nidrei, what Kol Nidrei means? And he couldn't get the words out. He had no idea that Kol Nidrei was about vows. To him, Kol Nidrei was this holy prayer that opens up Yom Kippur. He didn't even know that Kol Nidrei is a Hataras and Dorim, that a person made a vow in the course of the year. So since there's a halacha, there's a lav, la yachal devari, you're not allowed to make your words chulin. So when the holiest day of the year comes, you want to atone not just for actions that you did incorrectly, but for words. He didn't know any of that. To him, Kol Nidrei was this holy prayer, and Hashem is going to judge us, and we need a good year. He had no idea the technicalities of Kol Nidrei. And the Rav said to the king, do you see, what is Kol Nidrei? Technically, we're releasing vows. But Kol Nidrei is incredible. Why am I saying this? Because Yizkor is like Kol Nidrei. Ask the average Jew what's Yizkor. Yizkor, I'm going to shul. I'm going to mention my parents. There are Jews who never come to shul. Whether they're from or they're not from, they'll never miss Yizkor. Yizkor, you mention your parents. So the spirit of Yizkor is so much greater than the halacha of Yizkor. It's unimaginable. In other words, Yizkor has an explanation in Jewish law. And there's Yizkor on Yom Kippur, and then there's Yizkor on the Shalosh Regalim. Yizkor on Yom Kippur technically is primarily because just as the living have an atonement, the dead have an atonement. That's why it's called Yom HaKippurim, Loshen Rabim, because it atones not just for the living but also for the dead. And the Yom Tovim, we say Yizkor primarily to give tzedakah, because it's a time of tzedakah. You mentioned the Kriyat HaTorah tzedakah, so you mention your deceased relatives to increase in tzedakah for them. And of course, once a person has passed away, they can't do these things for themselves, so we do them for them. That's the technical Yizkor. But ask a person, what's Yizkor? Oh, Yizkor. I would never miss Yizkor. That dimension of Yizkor is far, far more important, I would argue, than the technical reasons why we say Yizkor. Because it touches Jewish people so much more deeply and has so much more of a meaningful impact and a lasting impact on the Jewish people, that even though it's not the reason for Yizkor, it is the reason for Yizkor. And to say what I'm saying from a different angle, from another perspective, the basic idea is we believe in life. we believe in such a thing as life. And that life is not biology, life is not chemicals and biomatter. Life is a neshama, is a soul. And we further believe that life is eternal. Bodies die. Physical things run their course and run out. But something which is truly living lives forever. A neshama is a living thing and it lives forever. Moreover, we believe that all living things that develop relationships at a certain time and at a certain place and under certain conditions, those bonds are eternal. And that's Yizkir. Yizkir is the eternity of the connection between one living thing and another living thing, between parents and children, in all the different possibilities that the way these things play out, practically speaking, that there is a real, tangible connection between the living and those who are living forever, as we call it. Chai shavik chaim l'chol chai, chai de chai. And although technically Yizkir has a purpose for a kapara on Yom Kippur and for tzedakah and the schus of the niftarim on Yom Tevim, the spirit of Yizkir is the bonding of souls from one world to another world, and the belief that there's no barriers. In the neshama, there are absolutely no barriers. And this is a moment when we focus on this truth, that we're always connected to the people whom we were once connected to eternally, by big tzaddikim, it's a davar apashat. But the Rebbe writes it about all relationships that we had when we're both physically in a body. When the body goes away, the body went away. The relationship didn't go away. And I would argue that that's as much a reason for Yizkir as the reason which I wrote in Halacha for saying Yizkir.